where do I know that this is my sin? I've like crossed the line, or I've sinned so much that God has given up on me. You know, like sometimes I feel like, oh, I've sinned so much that God has just told my mother goodbye. But like, so that's what we want to ask. Has God really told your mother goodbye? Has God given up on you? Welcome to another session on Our Question podcast. When we believe that the Bible has all the answers to all the questions in this life, right? So to my right is
Sarah,
and to my left is
Joseph.
a few questions that we feel like some of the younger folks have out there, and starting from in respect to the ones I have, right? So when you're living your life and you're just sinning and you just ask yourself like you just get tired of sinning sometimes. You're like, how well do I know that this is my sin? I've like crossed the line, or I've sinned so much that God has given up on me. You know, like sometimes you feel like, oh, I've sinned so much that God has just told my mother goodbye. But like, so that's what we want to ask. Has God really told your mother goodbye? Has God given up on you? How much sin is actually too much for God, right?
I really relate to the big question because I think we all go through that phase where we have that question of how have I actually crossed the line? Has God actually given up on me? And I think first of all is it's good to admit that first of all God will not force anybody to do anything, right? We are not robots. We have the power to make our own decisions in life, and God has already given us that two options. Who you choose, choose life or you choose death. Yeah. And it's a decision, and no one will force anybody on that. So it depends on, first of all, I believe it depends on the person's heart. If it's someone who is really, really tired of doing wrong, who is really desirous of freedom and doesn't want to be bound, there is a way of freedom. There's a solution available, because I've been there before where I actually told God, I think I see your efforts in trying to help me, but I think you just give up on me, right? So what the scripture that comes to my mind and God always reminds me of is Romans 5, I think one of the ending verses, where it said, where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. Like when you thought, okay, I think I've reached my peak, I think I've reached that limit, or I've reached that peak, God is saying, okay, I see where you are, but where sin has abounded, grace did much more abound. So grace is not like a license to just sin. Grace is actually the love of God to you, to help you to pull you out of the struggle that you don't want to be there, right?
say myself, so how I relate to that question is something that everybody has. It's something that has come to everybody's mind at some point. Well, just like picturing, I just want to come from that point of like picturing who God is, right? And just looking at the life of Jesus Christ, he said, it's the sick that needs the physician, not the healthy, right? And, people that the Pharisees condemned, the Republicans, the people, that everyone has said, these are sinners. You can see the woman that came to wash Jesus' feet with her hair. Mary Magdalene with 7 demons, like who wants to associate with such people, right? I'm sure she felt like she was at the point of no redemption at all. There's nothing, nobody can save me. But the answer she had was in Jesus Christ, saving her completely. Look at the thief on the cross, right? At the point, his life caught up with him, right? He still found God's saving grace. So, like Joseph said, God's grace is too much, right? There's no sin whatsoever that God cannot forgive. The more there's sin, right, the more there's even much more grace to cover that sin. And just coming from the angle that, again, God has given us, we are free, we have the free will to choose what we want to do. And in Old Testament, we have Moses saying, choose this day, right? Choose, there's life, there's death, right? Choose life and live. Another part of scripture says, if you be willing and obedient, you'll eat the good of the land. So the Bible is complete, right? It has, the results of what you will get when you obey God's commandments, right? So Galatians says, there's one scripture I can always relate this to, is like, God will not be mocked, right? Whatever a man sows, he will reap. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. Corruption is death. If you sow to the spirit, you will reap life everlasting. And when you say life everlasting, everybody wants life everlasting. Everybody wants to live fully and, enjoy all the promises, the blessings. But God also has commandments. He also has things that we should abide by as Christians. So yes, you sin, but like Joseph said, it all boils down to like what you really want as a Christian. Do you want to keep going this way, or you are really hungry for, that life of Christ? Do you have a repentant heart? Do you want more, but do you want this life of sin to end? So if you want that, God is there for you, right? And when you sow to your spirit, you reap life everlasting. So God is not here to force anyone, right? Do His commandments, and you would have life everlasting. Yeah, so I think that's something I wanted to just add. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sarah. In summary, God is too big to have a limit of what He can, to have any type of limit whatsoever. But on the other hand, because there's no amount of sin that's too much for Him to forgive, it's still not a ticket for you to go ahead and keep on sinning. But He's always there to welcome you with open arms every time you sin, as far as you're genuinely repentant about it. So, in other words, there's no amount of sin that's too much. Just give God a chance one more time and come back to Him, and He's going to always welcome you.